This week's episode is in partnership with Intact Insurance, here for you and for everything you care about. Well, hello, everybody. This is Jann Arden. You're listening to the Jann Arden podcast. I'm here with my pals, Caitlin Green and Adam Karsh. We are well into our quarantine, isolation, new life. For most of us, we're well into week 4, and things are changing. You know, as we go, more information is coming forward about what we're all dealing with globally. And I guess what we want to do today is I want to focus really in on relationships. And Adam has a couple of kids at home and a wife. Caitlin is living with her husband. And I am alone out in the trees in a rural area, not around anybody. And I kind of want to dive into what that means for all of us to be sequestered in our homes with people, whether it's a family, whether it's a husband, or whether it's by yourself, and how that's impacting our day-to-day lives, our mental health, how we're going about our work. And of course, I just want to check in with everybody and get different perspectives. So Caitlin, you know, how's it been going?
I think it's going pretty well. My husband and I are lucky in the sense that, we don't have kids, so we don't have that added stress. And we do, generally speaking, really like each other and enjoy each other's company. But it is a complete shift in how much time you spend together, because normally we run very different schedules. He's a 9 to 5er and I am a 5 to 9er. I work 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. on a morning show here in Toronto. And so it's weird. We are used to missing each other. And I do think absence makes your heart grow fonder. There's a portion of our relationship where we would look ahead at our weeks and say, okay, well, we'll have Wednesday and Thursday night together. He might be out with clients or at a meeting or an event. And then by the time he gets home, I'll only be awake for an hour before I have to go to bed. And so you really cherish that time together and you plan it. And we're also very social. We have a lot of friends, a lot of family in the city that we like to see. So we're out with them, which means our alone time, we can spend a lot of time with other people or on our own. We will only spend a very few number of hours together some weeks. So this is wild. At the first 2 weeks, it was like a cool vacation, like a staycation together. Week three, it's a different vibe for sure.
Sorry to laugh, but I'm just like, listen, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, because it's kind of personal and intimate. So, and if you have kids in the room, I'm not going to say anything bizarre, but is this a sexy time? Like, is there anything about this that leads itself to, physical intimacy? Like, I just want to kind of put that out there. Is there just too much pressure? Is it just like, honey, there's no effing way that we are going to go down the sexy road tonight? This is too much stress. How does that impacting you as a married couple? And you don't have to answer that, but the listeners will really be disappointed if you don't.
But no pressure, but also tell us how much you're having sex.
Well, no, not that. I'm just
I know. Well, no, for the first few weeks, it was like a novelty that we had all this time together, which is great. But also for me, I'm still waking up at 4:30 in the morning. So work week, Caitlin, I would rather watch a repeat of Seinfeld or Frasier and go to bed at 9 p.m. if I'm being honest, when I have to get up so early. And then also now both of us are working from home. So having your office life, having your desktop all of a sudden in your dining room, like, it's hard. I feel like work is like bleeding into every hour of my life at home, which it wasn't previously. So like it's not a really fired up time for me personally. Plus I'm living in elasticized pants. I am eating brownies by the tray. Like, I'm drinking way earlier.
Have you gained weight?
I am not even getting on the scale,
okay,
because I definitely have. I put on, as I like to call them now, my hard pants, which is any pants that aren't sweatpants. So I put on hard pants.
Hard pants. I want a damn t-shirt. Oh yeah. But it makes you think, when you pull on a pair of jeans, it's so like yesterday I had a few things to do. I had some press stuff, and I agree with you, Caitlin, putting on jeans. And I was very happy because I've really been mindful and been trying to work out and always eating the vegetables in my fridge first, because you don't want to waste anything.
No.
But Adam, how about you? Like, you're there with your wife. You've got, is it 2 little girls, right? you're in the house, and thank God you have the basement to go to. Caitlin's like in a 1-level condo, but what is has it affected intimacy with your wife, or is it sort of status quo, or is it has? Hey, he's nodding. I can see him.
It's bananas here. Oh, I can talk. It's bananas. It is utterly bananas in this house. All day, every day, bananas. Because we're working, my wife is working. She's a principal of a school. So she's managing her whole school from the dining room table. That is her office. That's also the girls, where they have their either tablets or little Chromebooks set up to interface with their classrooms, their teachers. Of course, everyone's at home, but they're interfacing with everyone. So they're learning, they're in school. My wife's trying to run her school from the dining room table, and I'm in the basement. So yes, luckily I have my little den downstairs that I can retreat to. But this house is bananas, and my wife and I were trying to balance working very busily from home, and we're lucky to be busy, lucky to be productive.
So has the physical part of your relationship kind of been completely set aside at this time? Is it something that is even remotely considered? Or I'm just asking because I think people are kind of trying to gauge what everybody else is doing, and you don't have to answer that. I mean, I don't need any details, but I would imagine that those things are affected by having a virus knocking on your door and the entire world shut down.
Well, aside from the fact that it was my birthday last Sunday, yes.
Okay.
No, not really. Yeah.
No, good. No, I'm glad. And so you feel like that's sort of a normalcy, and maybe it's a comforting thing to have when you have a partner, is to, be able to have that as an outlet. I feel like we need Cynthia Loy so badly on this show right now to help, because I'm probably asking all the wrong questions. But no, I'm really glad to hear that, Adam. I'm glad to hear that there's some normalcy, that your partnership is like it's intact, and I think that's really important for people listening to not negate that part of your relationship, whether it's from being stressed the hell out or just feeling like it's just the wrong time to do this, honey. I just don't feel up to it. I think it would probably be helpful. And you guys can feel sorry for me if you want to. I'm here by myself. And, but that has crossed my mind, if it would be better that I was here in a relationship. And then I think, no, I don't think I'm equipped at this point in my life. I like going to bed when I want to, getting up when I want to, watching what I want to, walking. It's so easy to prepare meals. It's just me. I don't really need a lot. So yeah, the relationship thing is perplexing to me. I was just looking at some of our celebrity pals that are, in kind of unique situations. Demi Moore and Bruce Willis, who have been divorced a couple of times or back together, are living together during this quarantine. So they're with all their kids. And I just find it very strange, but I guess for them it's working.
Yeah, they seem like they're friendly exes. They shared this photo on Instagram. They're all in their PJs together with their kids and their, the kids as significant others. And it was weird to consider the prospect of ever quarantining with an ex.
Yeah.
Like, even though they're obviously friendly, I don't know. I guess, they probably just transitioned into becoming family, but I don't know if I would. I don't know how Bruce Willis's current wife feels about having his ex-wife quarantined.
So that's what I was going to ask you. So is he there with his wife, with them in the house? Or what do you...
I mean, I would assume so. Like, he and his wife have young children. So unless this is like one of those posts where we'll look back in a year and realize that maybe he and his other wife were separated. I have no idea, but it just looked odd. Like, I mean, yeah, no, there is a solid no way. I mean, I've never been married to anybody else, but ex-boyfriends, like, I'm not quarantining with an ex-boyfriend. Get the heck out of here.
Well, you're saying that. I have a friend of mine, I'm not going to say any names, but she and her husband, not a great divorce. I think it's still ongoing. I think there's still details, but they have one child, and he's been living apart from them for a couple of years. But when this quarantine was about to go into place, they obviously had a conversation saying, listen, it's dangerous for us to be shuffling our kid back and forth. We should be in one household. So he is living in her Airbnb. She's done the basement of their house. as an Airbnb. So he's moved in there. And so that they're kind of together, sort of again, after 2 years to make sure that their son, has equal time with them. And I think it's going really well. I think
That's
there's a
good.
lot of healing going on, a lot of mended
Wow.
fences. And so there's some strange family configurations coming out of all of this.
Like I hear that, and I think those people are miracle workers that in the midst of a stressful viral pandemic, they have decided to make a new living arrangement work with an acrimonious ex. My petty brain is just sitting here thinking, no way. There's no way. I would have a hard time with that. But I guess you also have to weigh the pros and cons of the stress of passing your kid back and forth, obviously.
Well, what else could have put them back in the same home? So when you talk about mixed blessings in life, when you look at good things coming out of bad things, which I say all the time because it's true, I can't think of anything else that would have got that man into the Airbnb in that house, because they were very adversarial. They had an extremely contentious relationship. And so I'm really curious, guys, to see where this goes when we're able to crawl out of our caves, 8 weeks from now.
Everyone kept saying there was going to be this baby boom after everyone was isolating. I don't think so. If there is a baby boom, it's going to be a whole bunch of first children.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to the Jann Arden podcast. I'm here with Caitlin Green and Adam Karsh. We are going to launch right back into where we just left off, which was talking about being quarantined with family or being quarantined with a husband or a boyfriend or being by yourself. Caitlin was just launching into the whole thing with what people are going through with their kids. I don't have kids, and I'm really grateful that I was so chaste in my life to never get pregnant. But yeah, you were just about to tell us about there'll be either a lot of single kids or one kid families, or what are your thoughts?
Well, it's because initially when the isolation period began, everyone said, oh, we're going to have this whole new generation of baby boomers, kind of, right? We had the boomers that came about after the Second World War, and we thought that this would be the next version of that. Everyone joking that you're going to call them coronials or a bunch of other funny names. And now that we're into third, fourth week of quarantine for a lot of people who are home with their kids and they're working from home and they're teaching them, I swear to you, it is going to be first children only that come out of this. Nobody is going to be having any additional children. There are no siblings coming out of this situation because people who are already parents, like they do not want more kids right now. At least my friends don't. I have a girlfriend who is quarantined right now with 4 children at home. And normally she has some domestic help.
Does she have a partner?
Yeah, she has her husband.
Okay.
But he's working from home. He has a very, very busy job where he's just on calls all day. He is communicating all the time with the office. And because ordinarily he travels quite a bit. So all that travel has been replaced by calls all the time. And she normally has a little bit of domestic help at home, thankfully. But now she doesn't, because she doesn't want her usual, like in during the day childcare. Obviously, quarantining with them, it's not right. So she's doing all the heavy lifting. And I think she would love to rent her kids out to anybody who's lonely and looking for some company.
Well, kids need to be engaged. What's happening with your 2 kids, Adam? How old are your girls?
So they're 6 and 8, and they're managing. They're fine. They have enough to keep them busy. They have their iPads and their video games and stuff like that, and books and puzzles and things. And they also do, it's not just that, they do analog play. I have to tell you, every room in my house is now a fort. The basement's a fort. The kitchen's a fort. The dining room is a fort. They've turned every room in our house into a fort. There's pillows and blankets on everything. I can't sit anywhere. Everything's a fort.
I like it. Have you ever thought about how much of this do you think they're going to remember? Because I'm looking back to when I was 6 years old, and I don't, even 6, 8, a little bit more, but 6, I really don't know what is going to be left in your daughter's head a decade from now. I don't know what kids are going to retain from this. And what an odd thing for them to experience. I really try and see this through kids' eyes of how completely, depending on who your parents are, it could be either completely chill and kind of zen and awesome, or completely terrifying. So I don't know. I would imagine that your kids because you're pretty zen, are very well adjusted. Like, do they have an understanding of what this is and what we're all kind of up against?
My oldest totally gets it. She absolutely knows what's going on. She knows the lingo. She knows the word quarantine. She knows coronavirus. She understands what we have to do. So we're talking about it, and she's asking questions, and she totally gets it. I think my youngest, she's only 6. I don't know if she knows what's exactly going on, but everyone's managing to the best of their ability. And make no mistake, it's extremely challenging to balance everybody, work and raising. I mean, yes, I can work from home. I'm working from home right now. I'm recording the podcast that we're doing, and I can work from home, but it's very challenging to work from home and raise a family at exactly the same time. It's very challenging.
I think if I had been faced with this as an 8-year-old kid, I would have been in my damn glory. Like, I just would have been, OMG, this is going to be so amazing. My parents had just moved us out into a rural setting at that point, and we had a little horse, and there was, just fields and fields of just, we got kicked out the door basically, and we played all day on the weekends. And I did my homework on the bus. My teacher used to think I had really terrible penmanship, but I was trying to write on the big yellow school bus and do my little bit of homework on the 1-hour drive to get to the school. But I think I just would have been in my glory. But I'm hearing that a lot of kids are like really bummed that they're not in school.
Yeah.
And which is kind of, once again, the silver lining in a dark cloud is kids realizing, oh my God, I don't hate school as much as I thought I did.
I think a lot of kids miss their little friends. I've had a few of my girlfriends when we're on like our FaceTime saying that they took their kid out for a walk in their stroller, and they'd fall asleep when they went out for their nap. They went out for their walk. And so they fall asleep, they come home and they wake up back home and they thought they were going to school and they're crying, I want to go see my friends. Oh. And I think that they're slowly, even the little kids are kind of starting to get it. Although I don't know how much of it they're necessarily going to remember. We do a story time over FaceTime with our nieces and nephews who live in Hamilton, Vancouver, and Bermuda. And we do this every Sunday, and we pick a story to read to them over FaceTime. And my husband and I, because we don't have kids, we don't really have children's books at our home. So we look up stupidly just the first 5-minute bedtime story for kids. And we wind up on a website called Storyberries. And PSA to anybody who's looking for bedtime stories for your kids, do not read the song called Olive Stays Inside, because we get about 4 minutes into this book we're reading to them. It's all about the pandemic. And I have all these little faces staring at us on FaceTime going, what are the germs? And we're trying to edit it. And we had to lie and just close the laptop and say, our laptop died, because we realized that we were in the middle of giving our nieces and nephews nightmares for the rest of their lives about germs and the coronavirus. So
Howie Mandel was ahead of the curve.
I mean, I feel for parents who have to explain this stuff to their kids, because like even these books that are supposed to be helping you keep it simple for them, it's all kind of frightening stuff. Like
really quickly before we go to the next break, there's a journalist, Jonah Goldberg from Los Angeles, who had something really interesting. People are on their phones so much anyway, but what he was sort of getting people to participate in was looking at the date 1 year ago. So, whatever the date is, and then going back on your phone and finding that date a year ago to see like if you were in a crowded restaurant or at a baseball game. So maybe during the break, I would encourage everybody to go check out their phone and see where they were a year ago, and maybe tweet us at the Jann Arden podcast on Twitter and let us see your pictures from today and from a year ago. That would be really, really great. We're going to be right back with the Jann Arden podcast. I'm here with Caitlin Green and our engineer, Adam Karish, who's, he's weighing in today because he's got nowhere to go. So we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to the Jann Arden podcast. Here we are on the Saturday right before Easter Sunday. And we're going to get to that. We're definitely going to get to that. But of course, that involves, eating goodies, chocolate, all the great things that you think about. So prefacing that whole thing with having a holiday at home and eating probably even more than we're already eating, this whole idea of the workouts. Caitlin, you were just saying on the break about having an Instagram feed that's just all your friends are working out. Everyone's like, doing at-home routines. Let's lift the dog. Let's do cans of stewed tomatoes. And I don't know. There's lots of crazy at-home workouts going on right now.
And because I guess when you work in media, I'm sent a lot of stories or experts that might want to be interviewed on the show I work on, all about how to eat less when you're at home, snack less, how to transition to intermittent fasting while you're in self-isolation, all of these things. And I just think my instinct right away is we have enough to worry about in the most stressful time I think many people have faced in recent memory. Are we really going to start nitpicking on snacking? Are we really going to start nitpicking on making cookies or having a few extra carbs? Like, I don't know. I'm personally not a fan of it. I think people have to stay active. If it probably helps with your mental health, of course, to get your heart rate up and go outside, get some cardio, obviously at a safe distance from other people. That's different. But I think that I'm kind of done with all the articles telling you while you're at home to, on top of everything else, not eat. Like, I don't know. I find it a bit annoying.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is obviously something that we've not dealt with in modern life, certainly not for 100 years. And none of us were here. Not even our seniors were here, for God's sakes. But it is a whole, there has to be a movement about being easy on yourself and not feeling like you need to count calories or go into your fitness apps and log every morsel that you're sticking into your head, and certainly put your scale away, for God's sakes, right now. Health is wealth. I would rather gain 10 pounds through all this than be in a position where I'm hospitalized because of a virus, because I thought I'd go play pickup basketball with a bunch of the gang down at the park. And you'd think that you'd be done having to caution younger people, or God forbid younger people, all the people that are running into Whole Foods and dishing up at the salad bar, shoulder to shoulder. There's some really zany stuff going on out there that people just don't seem to get it. It's that mentality, oh, it's not going to happen to me. And that's, I think, what's hurting so many other people. So yeah, we're all so stressed out being at home as it is. Let that stuff go. Just let it go and set it aside.
And one of the few things we're being allowed to, enjoy right now, we're allowed to do is go grocery shopping and make food for your family and plan meals and have snacks. It's always been one of life's simple pleasures, was food and dining together. Now it's more important than ever because one of the few things we can do, and a great way when somebody or care about is isolating, to help them is to drop off some food, make them some banana bread if you don't want to waste those bananas that are going brown at home. And I just don't want to, I feel like mental health is important, and don't nitpick at yourself right now. Like, don't worry about having a little bit of more of a belly. Like, I don't know. I'm firmly planted in who the hell cares? Eat the cookie. We have enough on our plate, literally, figuratively.
I wonder why it is that we're so hard on ourselves. Like, what part of being in this situation makes people want to just do this? I don't know what you'd call it. Like this self-punishment, this shameful self-loathing thing is like, I just don't get it. So many of my friends right now, I'm glad we're talking about this, are being super hard on themselves. They're being really hard on the time they're spending. Like, oh my God, I watched TV for like 9 hours yesterday. My phone time was up 40%. I was on my phone 11 hours yesterday. And then I woke up at 3 a.m. and I spent another 2 hours like scrolling through blah, blah, blah. And everyone is tearing themselves to shreds. Like, and it's heartbreaking for me. I'm just like, there's some days I don't do anything.
I know. And haven't we all secretly in some way, not obviously to this level, but longed for some peace and quiet and a chance to sit and do nothing? And here you are being handed it, forced to do it. And when this first began, the number of articles and things I saw from people saying, hey, did you know that Shakespeare wrote King Lear when he was in...
my God.
Do not worry about writing King Lear, for the record, right now. And if that's the standard for you're setting for yourself in the middle of all that's going on, is that you're going to write a masterpiece and you're going to come out of this bikini ready, I have news for you. You are setting yourself up for a world of disappointment in addition to stress about a viral effing pandemic. Like, everyone does need to take it easy on themselves. I think it's a form of self-care to cut yourself a break.
So where do you think that starts? Maybe Adam, I'll ask you that. Like, how do you, like, for yourself personally, how do you break out the sort of the self-care stuff in your life? I mean, I'd like to get the male point of view, because I think men and women are dealing with this very differently, Adam.
Well, we're talking about food, right? And I really enjoy cooking. I like to cook, and if I do say so myself, I'm a pretty good cook. And I've really been taking the opportunity.
That's all the time we have, Adam. But thank you so much.
Toodly-doo. No, I like to cook, so I've been finding comfort in. Yes, even though it's, as I mentioned before, it's crazy around here, I am at home. So I'm finding more time to cook meals that I wouldn't otherwise normally make during the week, that I make them. So I'm really, that's I think where I go for comfort, to cook meals for myself and for my family, and really spend the time to, like, we're eating great at home. So we're doing okay in that department, and that's where I go.
Well, that's one of the things that everyone's finding. Caitlin was talking about, these fitness sort of pictures coming up, or at-home workouts. And I was saying that every second picture that I have on my feed is a loaf of bread. I made sourdough. I made rye bread. And we've talked about that certainly before on the show about that. But I too catch myself being hard on myself. And I am hard on myself for being fearful. I'm hard on myself for feeling afraid. And I hate that I do it to myself, but it's usually from about 2:30 in the morning till 5:30 before the sun comes up.
The witching hour.
And I find that's when I really, really have to battle the fearfulness of the unknown. And it doesn't last for long, but I have to really be mindful about catching myself from getting into that loop. And I guess I'm trying to live in the future, and you just can't do it. You have to be where you are.
I mean, honestly, just even knowing that you do that in that exact time frame is really half the battle, because it's perfectly natural for everyone to have anxieties, especially at night, especially more so now. So even just knowing that you have this period of time where you're more likely to worry, and just letting those anxieties come and pass by, I mean, that's really all you can do. As somebody myself who deals with anxiety, and I know the power of a brain spiral, just letting those thoughts come and go is therapeutic in a way. And I get it at night too. I mean, my witching hour, just because my hours are so unusual, it's usually, if I can't go to sleep by 10 o'clock or 10:30, I'm awake until 12:30. And it's that 2-hour chunk where I just sit there and, like, catalog everything I should be doing or I'm not doing properly. And it drives me.
Okay, one little hack before we go to the next break. One little hack that you do.
So I would say one hack that I do is I honestly now will try to make a list of even 5 or 10 things that I'm really lucky to have in my life. So things that you're grateful for, because it does give you a reality check that everything's not as bad.
You say them in your mind, or do you write them down?
I say them in my mind.
Okay, say them in your mind. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. And also just a simple body scan. We talk about it a lot if you've ever studied meditation, but you just do a check-in on, how do my toes feel? How does the bed feel underneath me? What can I smell? What can I hear? Simple check.
Something tactile.
Yeah, it's grounding. They say it's grounding. And honestly, it sounds cliche, but it's a cliche because it works.
Welcome back to the Jann Arden podcast. I'm here with Caitlin Green and our extra sidekick, because we want to give you extra bang for your buck. With the quarantine editions with Adam Karsh, who's our engineer. We were just talking about how hard we are on ourselves. And the funny thing is we're sure not hard on other people. We're not hard on our friendships. We're filled with empathy. We're filled with understanding. We're filled with a gratefulness to have people in our lives, but we cannot give ourselves that same comfort. Like, I don't know why we don't see it in ourselves. Like, my friends will always say to me, no, you're being so strong. Like, you're being really positive through this. And I'm just like, I'm not really doing anything. I feel like I could be so much more helpful. And like, my friend Julie is just, she's out there doing food banks and food drops off. And she's doing stuff at a radio station and giving people recipes. And I just, I got friends doing all this stuff, and I literally feel like I'm sitting here on my thumbs waiting for someone to tell me to come out of my room. Okay, you're done now. Your punishment's over. You can come out.
Yeah, I think that the productivity thing is very real, where you feel like you have to be doing something. You have to be productive every hour of the day. I certainly feel that way. And everyone needs downtime. And Jann, I saw your schedule. I always talk about this, but before this happened, you never stopped. Like you absolutely you were always traveling. You were always going to a gig. You were doing the podcast. You're doing your TV show. You were always out there, putting yourself out there and working your tail off. So I feel like right now it's like, okay, you're just sort of holed up with MIDI. And I mean, it could be worse.
Oh, it sure could be. And don't get me wrong. I have days where I really lean into it. I almost feel happy. Like I have a sense of well-being. I have a good night's sleep. I'm not thinking about the what ifs. And I'm sure everyone's feeling that this. My friend gave me a great analogy. She said, this thing is like a tsunami. And when a tsunami wave comes in and it curls back over itself. So the wave, you think, oh, the waves, that's as bad as it's going to get. And then it comes crashing down the other side. And I think that's what I'm doing. I feel like it goes in waves that I do really, really great, you guys, and then I don't do great. And maybe that's just, I know I'm not alone in that. I really do understand that I'm not alone in it. But I won't be writing War and Peace at this time. I don't have the concentration level. I can work for a little while. I'll work on a bit of music. I'll write a blog or something for my Facebook page, and then that's it. Then I'm just in a mode of self-preservation. I guess that's what I would call it.
Yeah, and it is really day to day because some days, like you've said, I'll feel like I get up, I clean the whole house, I shower, I do a bunch of laundry, I make a ton of food. I'm super productive, even just hanging around. And other days, I just scroll through my phone and look at old photos and videos, and
of that time when you got a hug.
Yeah, exactly. I just relive old vacations and frown sitting in bed. And I think that's kind of how it's going to go until we get a little bit back to normal. But yeah, like I'm not Shakespeare, and I'm not going to be. So I don't know why.
What?
That's the thing. All these regular people like you and I, and I see them posting about how they should be doing more. I'm so lazy, or I wasted this whole day on the couch watching bad reality TV. And I think, what an unrealistic standard. I mean, none of us were going to transition into Shakespeare just because it was a pandemic. Like, it seems like the last possible time for that.
Adam was saying on the break that he's just one of his other guilty pleasures, not only just cooking meals for the family, but is watching garbage TV. So please expand on that.
So the two shows that I've invested time in, which I can never get back, is I totally watch Tiger King. That is horrific.
Yes.
Amazing. I mean, terribly horrific, amazing garbage television.
I'm not going there. Not going there.
But I enjoyed it and didn't enjoy it at the same time. And the other show that I watched, and I never watch dating shows. I am not a dating show television guy, but I binged watched Love is Blind on Netflix. That is a mess. Please watch it. Everybody needs to watch Love is Blind. That is a hot mess.
I hated that show personally, but that's just me.
I loved it. I was obsessed. It is just a hot mess.
Yeah, we talked about that. Sorry, go ahead, Caitlin.
Well, I was going to say I did actually finish it. Like I say I hated it, but I should put a little asterisk there, which is hated it, watch the whole dang thing.
Yeah. Oh, you had to figure out how it ended. There was just no way about it. And for anyone that hasn't seen it, the preface is that you go on all these literally blind dates. You are talking to your prospective lover or husband through a door. And the whole thing is that not only are you blind dating, but within a very short period of time, you are going to marry this person. So it's pretty freaky. You're going to make your marriage proposal without having ever seen them. That's it.
Yes.
That was the big kicker.
Yeah.
I like history stuff. I've actually learned a lot in the last month about history. I guess the catalyst was, reading up about the pandemic of 1918 and kind of trying to get my head around how the world dealt with it 100 years ago. And then that led me into seeing all this history stuff. So I've learned a whole bunch of stuff about stuff that happened in China like 5,000 years ago. So I don't think I realized just how much I loved history programs. So that is news to me. Maybe that's my next question. What have you guys learned about yourselves that you didn't know a month ago?
I would say, well, one thing that surprised me is that I'm listening to some random country songs.
Yes.
So my music, like I'm not really listening to new music at all. I mean, I've started going back and I'm listening to Bob Seger all of a sudden. I'm listening to Aretha Franklin and Frank Sinatra, and I'm finding myself going back to older music when normally I'm a new music person. So that I don't think it surprises you because like just it hasn't surprised me because I know that people want to go back to a different time. And that's part of it. And it's things that I remember listening to when I was growing up. So that part's comforting for sure. But that has surprised me a little bit.
With country music, well, I mean, I don't think we stop long enough to ever really learn new things about ourselves. I don't think I realized just how much I like the quiet. Mm-hmm. Like I always thought that I was this person that liked to be like in the eye of the storm. And I really like the stillness. And I've always loved to read, but I'm telling you, I am enjoying reading right now more than I ever have in my life.
Yeah. Have you noticed, this sounds kind of, I don't mean it to be mean spirited, but have you noticed that there might be some people that you don't miss seeing? Because
I people's true characters has really come through. And I think you realize how important an earnest friendship is. And people that have checked in on you.
Yeah, I think the nature of your connections with people can become really clear at a time like this, and how much you miss them, and the ease of communicating with them even from afar is something that's really nice. And so, yeah, some people I'm surprised that I find myself reaching out to all the time, and some people I'm surprised because I'm thinking to myself, I never want to reach out to you at all. And not in a mean way, just in that I think I don't miss their presence in my life perhaps as much as I thought I would.
Yeah. Well, there's that whole thing too of you hear from people that you haven't heard from in a long time. Mm-hmm. But then and it's happened, a handful of times here in the last couple of weeks. And I'm like, oh, wow. I've left a few messages, but never heard back. But when their name pops up and they want something, it breaks my heart a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's not, the message isn't even prefaced by, hey, how are you doing? It's like, so-and-so here. Listen, this is a big ask, but can you blankety blank blank? And I think that's been, it tells me a lot sometimes. And I'm trying to be easier on people because I know everyone's like looking for stuff that they need. Mm-hmm. But there's nothing like reciprocity in a friendship. It has to be give and take, and people have to show up for you, but you have to show up for them.
Yeah, exactly. I think there are some relationships where it has always, never ceased to amaze me that I can go for a period of time without really checking in on them frequently because life has been so busy. And when we do connect, it's like we haven't missed a beat. And a lot of them are my friends from high school and from childhood. And that's so fabulous to know that that's not even changing amidst a pandemic. And then, and the surprising thing for me too is I missed going into an office. How weird is that?
Not at all.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I had a listener, the radio station that I work at in Toronto is called Chum. And we have a big corner of a main street right downtown where there's a big neon sign. So a listener who is an essential worker, so they're still out every morning, drove past the station, took a really cool photo of the neon sign of the radio station all lit up, and then tagged a bunch of us in it. I honestly saw this and got a little emotional. Thinking about walking in the front door to your office, seeing Barbara, our security guard, smelling coffee, like saying hi to everyone, popping down to say hi to Adam in his studio. It's just that in-person something. Whoever thought they'd miss work?
It's there's going to be an abundance of gratitude for simple things when we come back. Okay, guys, I just want to leave you with this great poem. It's I believe the author's name was Kate O'Meara. She's a retired school teacher from the States. There's been some misleading stuff included with this beautiful poem, which I got wrong too. So, but I still want to read you this poem. It was written just a few months ago. And I just think this will be something that people will read 200 years from now, honestly. So Kate O'Meara, if I'm getting your name wrong, please forgive me. Okay, here we go. And people stayed at home and read books and listened, and they rested and did exercises and made art and played and learned new ways of being and stopped and listened more deeply. Someone meditated, someone prayed, someone met their shadow, and people began to think differently, and people healed. And in the absence of people who lived in ignorant ways, dangerous, meaningless, and heartless, the earth also began to heal. And when the danger ended and people found themselves, they grieved for the dead and made new choices and dreamed of new visions and created new ways of living and completely healed the earth just as they were healed. So I'll leave you with that today. Thanks very much for joining us on the Jann Arden podcast. Look after yourselves, everybody. On behalf of Caitlin and Adam, it's Jann Arden saying toodly-doo.